I grew up in an impoverished country, and my parents struggled to make enough money to send me to school. So when someone offered to take me to the United States for an education, they were happy to send me overseas. But when I arrived, there was no education. Over the next 6 years, I was imprisoned and abused, both physically and sexually. I was forced to cook and clean for my hosts and their children, and I was forced into prostitution too. I wasn't allowed to contact my family. I wasn't allowed to go to school, and I wasn't even allowed to leave the house.
Think human trafficking isn't happening in our community? Think again. St. Louis is one of the top 20 jurisdictions for sex trafficking crimes, and we're a hub for labor trafficking as well. Human traffickers will do anything to exploit their targets, and they'll use lies, threats, and even force to trap their victims. 80% of trafficking targets are trapped in forced labor, 25% of them are children, and 75% of them are women. But all of them share one essential trait: the loss of their freedom. Think someone may be trafficked? Learn the warning signs that help us put an end to human trafficking.
I met Chris when I was 16. I had run away from home and he bought me dinner that night and asked if he could see me again. He told me how beautiful I was and how I deserved better. I kept seeing him for months, and I even moved in with him a few states away from my family and friends. I didn't have a car or a job, and I depended on him for everything. Then he changed. He told me he needed me to start paying my share of the rent, but I couldn't get a job that paid enough. So he told me he wanted me to go on dates with other men and do whatever they said, and that would be how we paid the rent. I kept saying no. I didn't want to do that. But he kept telling me, if you love me, you'll do it. Eventually, I said yes. He would set up the dates, and I would go. And I would do whatever they said, like Chris told me to.
Human trafficking isn't just an over-there problem. It's real, and it's happening in our community. It's modern-day slavery, a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry that denies freedom to hundreds of thousands of people around the country. From a runaway teen forced into prostitution to a migrant held against their will and forced to work for little to no pay. It's a problem law enforcement is committed to stopping, but we need your help. Learn the warning signs, learn what to look for, and help us put a stop to human trafficking.
I'm talking as a citizen. What can I do if I see something that's wary and something just doesn't look right? What can we do to help? Because we got, 350 million people, say 40 million people living in America, human traffickers. It's not a big number. Say it's in the thousands, but we got a lot of other adults that are out there looking, all this other stuff. What signs can we look for, and what can we do in that moment, to maybe potentially help one girl that is going through the mess that she's going with a trafficker?
So the answer to that question actually goes right back to the story you just told. People say, well, what should we look for? People will tell you that, you look for a girl with a crown tattoo on her neck. Well, that's pretty old. That's about 20 years ago that traffickers were doing that.
What's the crown? What's the crown?
They put a crown, they mark their victims. They used to mark them like on their neck or on their face until they figured out that it's pretty easy for law enforcement to figure out. So they stopped doing that. They still do mark them, but usually in a place that you can't see. But when you see something that just doesn't make sense, right? And especially when it involves fear, we all know what fear looks like. I mean, we can see it in other people. It's a survival instinct that allowed, mankind to proliferate, say, hey, I'm afraid because there's a lion over there. So we all know what it looks like. And so when you see that, you did exactly the right thing, which is you want to tell the next level of authority that you can, right? So in this case, it was the crew at the airline. If it's not the crew at the airline, it's going to be the airport security. It's going to be a law enforcement officer. It's going to be calling your county sheriff, all of those things. But then you get this problem with too much data, because that law enforcement officer who's a human trafficking detective, well, that's only one of their jobs. They're also working traffic 2 days a week, and they're also doing something else because law enforcement is undermanned as much as anybody in the government. So that's where we come in that we provide technology software so it connects those cases across the country, so that those law enforcement officers can log into our system and say, all right, has any of the information that this girl gave me or this guy gave me, has anybody else in law enforcement seen this before? And so they'll search it and, oh, yep, sure enough, there's a detective in Nebraska. All right, let me call that detective in Nebraska and see what's going on, right? And so getting people to report things, I mean, even if you don't know it's a human trafficking victim. It could be something completely different. It could be, the girl's parents had died in a car crash, and this is an uncle she doesn't know very well who was the last of kin who now is taking her on. I mean, you have no idea. But the point was that something wasn't right. And so you told somebody. And that is exactly what the public needs to do, and err on the side of caution. Right? You just err on the side of caution. Like, this could be a human trafficking problem. It could be a kidnapping problem. There was something going on. So we need to tell somebody.
Again, I'm not in your world, but if I'm in your world, I think speed is critical, right? Call to action is critical. And I understand research data, all of that, but that's to hunt down the trafficker, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're in an opportunistic moment, there has to be, because once they're gone. Your opportunity is gone. How much does speed play a role in catching traffickers when you see an opportunity to execute immediately? Meanwhile, the law enforcement agencies you're dealing with, maybe that's not at the top of their priority. So what happens when you give intel? Do they execute immediately, or it's like, oh, we can't do it today, we're so busy, we'll do it tomorrow? How does the level of speed to call to action, I'm gathered the information, I got it. How fast does execution happen, executing the data that I got to go catch this guy? What have you noticed yourself?
Not near fast enough. Law enforcement always wants to execute on it immediately, but great example is at the Super Bowl. We had over 700 intelligence packages go out during the Super Bowl operation. If you took every single law enforcement officer in the Tampa area and solely dedicated them to the human trafficking problem, they wouldn't have been able to get to the bottom of it. And that's a very harsh reality of how big this problem is. And it's gotten this big because we never took combating it seriously. So now we're at the Super Bowl. My analysts, they know many human traffickers who showed up at the Super Bowl and then left the Super Bowl with their girls. Well, quite frankly, that sucks. But we have all that data, and now we know where they're going because they're advertising. So we know where they're going to end up. The computers will let us know when they settle, and then we can call law enforcement in that area and say, hey, these guys were just in the Super Bowl. And the reality is sometimes law enforcement says, hey, we actually don't have anybody who deals with human trafficking. We don't want anything to do with that. And in which case we're like, all right.
Why do they say that though?
Because they're not funded for it. Right? Go to your local, I'm sure you know some folks in law enforcement. Go to your police chief and say, hey, show me the budgets for your narcotics unit, for your gangs unit, for your property crime unit, and for your human trafficking unit. And what you'll find is that their gangs unit is fully funded, narcotics unit is fully funded, property crime, that touches commercial real estate, which touches their donors, the mayor's donors. So guarantee you that's funded. And many times they'll tell you, oh, we actually don't have a human trafficking unit. We have a detective who does something else who, if a human trafficking case comes along, they go ahead and they deal with it.
So you obviously the idea of defunding the police just even hurts this even more because you need funding to be able to execute on some of these things. So question for you on how many total traffickers are there? Not victims, but how many total traffickers, if you can estimate, are there in America today?
I would estimate it around the, man, it'd be hard, 25 to 50,000 mark.
What's I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the way we get that is, again, we're talking illicit underground commodities, right? Illicit underground networks, very, very difficult to get good data on that. But the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimates that about 100,000 children a year, enter the human trafficking market.
In America.
In America. And these are American citizens. This is not Lethal Weapon and there's, you know, Chinese coming in over shipping containers or the movie Taken, right? These are our sons and daughters that are being targeted primarily on internet platforms, social media, gaming consoles by human traffickers and groomed, which is what they call it, into their business enterprise.
I've not asked you this before, but I'm asking you right now, and hopefully you will do this as a valuetainer. Please share this video. Text it to people, hit the thumbs up button, share it whatever way you can for other people to see it, for the algorithms to be on our favor, because this is not a message about how you make millions, how you make billions, how you become successful. It's not entertainment. This is purely something that's about education and awareness. So I'm asking you, share it with any parent that you know and say, just watch this video. Get a paper and pen out. You're going to want to pay attention to this one here. So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire.
The problem is global. The impact is devastating, but awareness is expanding. For the past week, both on air and online, we've been presenting a Tegna special report on human sex trafficking called Selling Girls.
The state of Louisiana and New Orleans in particular is no stranger to this dark underworld. Tonight, investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein takes a look at the local epidemic of selling girls.
He's choked me out to where I wasn't able to breathe and I passed out from it. It was times I thought about when he was asleep in the other bed, I should get up and just start stabbing.
He got drugs in exchange for me and my body.
3 women, 3 stories of abuse and forced sex. 3 trafficking victims who found a path to healing in New Orleans. Samantha was recruited by a girlfriend into a sex ring in Florida at the age of 15.
I did a date, which is what we call a date, having sex for money, and I didn't find it to be like wrong. I looked up to that girl, like, you know, anything that she did, she was like a big sister to me.
Serenity grew up in foster homes in North Louisiana. She was convinced by her best friend to come to New Orleans and start a fun new life. Instead, that girl's boyfriend turned out to be a pimp, posting their pictures online and forcing them to turn tricks in motel rooms.
They turned it around to like, you having sex anyway, so you might as well get some money while you're doing it.
Mandy, a 55-year-old mother of 2, was the victim of 2 abusive husbands. The beatings weren't the worst part. Each husband scored drugs by forcing Mandy to have sex with dealers.
It was brutal. It was a long, hard night. There's nothing like begging a stranger for your life. There's nothing like sex at the end of a 9mm.
It was almost Mandy's last night on Earth.
I went into the bathroom and got a handful of razor blades and proceeded to put a little artwork here on both of my arms.
Samantha and Serenity were lured into the business by flattery, gifts, promises of a better life. But when things turned abusive, they realized they were living a nightmare. Escape was difficult.
He made me strip and he beat me, and he started yelling at me, and he kept saying he wanted to see my blood all over the floor.
Serenity avoided the beatings.
I was quiet the whole time because I didn't want to get killed.
New Orleans, a tourist destination with a long history of prostitution, has become a hub for the even more exploitive modern-day version, selling women, including young girls, for sex. 19-year-old Jasilis Wright was a stripper on Bourbon Street. Her trafficker, Adam Littleton, is now serving a life sentence for her murder. Wright was killed in June 2015 when she jumped from Middleton's car on I-10 in Metairie.
And once you get into the life, there's almost no way out. Usually, the two ways out are jail and death.
It's huge. I mean, it's here in our city. We see it every day.
As bad as the problem is, New Orleans has become a leader in providing outreach and shelter for survivors. Samantha and Mandy are 2 of 8 women at Eden House, a recovery house for survivors. Serenity is staying at Covenant House, a youth shelter that now has a human trafficking case manager.
We go to strip clubs, we go to the motels, all of the tracks. And agencies like ourselves are the ones helping them pick up the pieces and rebuild their lives.
And the social service agencies are teaming up with law enforcement. Covenant House got a federal grant to assemble a task force. Women who were once arrested for prostitution are now being helped and helping make cases against their traffickers.
I was sitting in jail, and I got this wonderful opportunity from Eden House, and I didn't think twice about it. I signed the plea agreement.
We're all coming back literally from the dead. Literally from the dead.
Mike Pearlstein, Eyewitness News.
Very brave of those women to share their stories. And over the past 10 years, Louisiana's human trafficking laws have been strengthened and are now considered some of the strongest in the country. The anti-trafficking organization Shared Hope International gives the state an A grade on its reforms.
The group just wrapped up its national conference here in New Orleans on a persistent problem in the city, juvenile sex trafficking.
When people hear the words sex trafficking, they often think of massage parlors or faraway countries. But for one Austin girl, her nightmare happened right here in Central Texas.
KVU's Erin Jones has her survival story and shows us how an Austin woman is helping young sex trafficking survivors move on from their troubled past.
An estimated 79,000 children are at risk for sex trafficking in Texas, according to a recent study by the Institute of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault at the University of Texas. The 18-year-old girl you're about to meet was trafficked right here in Austin and throughout Central Texas. But she was finally saved and now on a career path that gives her the chance for a better life.
When I was 16 and I got kidnapped and trafficked.
A typical teen curiosity turned into a nightmarish experience for this young girl we'll call Hannah. 2 years ago, she downloaded a social meetup app on her phone. What were you looking for?
A boyfriend, because I still never had a boyfriend.
She thought she found a match. The two set up a date and he picked her up the next day.
And as soon as I got in the car, I couldn't get back out.
What did he describe the situation as?
He just started saying, like, I own you now, and we started going to hotels.
That's when the real nightmare began.
My first client I ever had, he had white hair. He was like 70.
Every day she was forced to sleep with multiple men while her mom and police searched for her.
You just have to like zone out while it's going on.
She was given little food and forced to down drugs, constantly under watch.
You don't know how many times I wanted to just like go up to somebody and ask them to help me.
A trip to the store finally provided that opportunity.
I got saved at a Walmart.
Hannah was caught for shoplifting.
When the police showed up, I told them what happened.
Her pimp was arrested. It's been 2 years since Hannah was rescued, and still she is recovering, finding hope in a place where she's also found a purpose. What brought you here?
Trying to get back to what I used to be.
Jump down to the timeline.
Hannah is enrolled at the Adamo Nail Lab, a unique trade school providing state manicurist certification to young women like herself.
In your new career path,
Carissa Bradford decided to start this school after being moved by a sex trafficking victim years ago.
This girl comes and she knocks on our door. You know, she's got a staph infection the size of a baseball on her left arm.
She pleaded to Bradford for help.
I was just so hell-bent on making sure that I gave her whatever I could.
Knowing the young girl wasn't alone, Bradford got to work to help others like her. She converted an Airstream camper into a traveling nail bar she now uses to help victims like Hannah find their purpose.
My ultimate goal for these women is to leave confident that they can live a self-sustainable life.
Hannah still wrestles with her past.
I get flashbacks. I still have bad dreams.
But with a helping hand.
It's gonna be great having a nail career. I want to do like really fun, cool nails.
A chance some victims never get. The Adamo Nail Bar is fully open for business now and also accepts donations to help cover the cost of students like Hannah. You'll find more information on how to help with this story on our website, kview.com. Erin Jones, KView News.
It's an important story. Thank you for sharing that, Erin. And tomorrow on the KView Night Beat, we wrap up our series on selling girls with steps that you can take now to help change the topic of conversation from selling girls to saving them.
And you can see our entire series of the eye-opening reports on child sex trafficking, selling girls, right now on kview.com. If you have a tip you want the Defenders to investigate, get in touch with us through email, defenders@kview.com, or on our hotline at 512-533-20.
The problem is global. The impact is devastating, but awareness is expanding. For the past
My name is Marcela Loaiza. I'm a survivor of human trafficking. I was 21 years old. I was living in Colombia. I was a single mother, but I have to stay with my daughter 24/7 because she was very sick. So when I stay with her, I lose my 2 jobs. One of my jobs, I was working in a nightclub. One guy approached me in the nightclub and he offered me a job and he said, I'm gonna help you to become famous. I'm traveling around the world because I think you're beautiful and you have a great talent. So at the moment when I got the offer, I thought, yeah, I think it's cool, but I have my 2 jobs, I'm fine. But when I have that situation with my daughter, I remember him and I called him. So in less than a week, he buy me a ticket and I say, but where I'm going? And he say, oh, don't worry, I told you in the airport. So when I went to Tokyo, 2 guys waiting for me with my picture. 2 seconds later, a Colombian woman approached me. She took me to a house, she dyed my hair, she gave me eye contact. She say, honey, go to sleep. So she was kind of sweet and nice, and a couple hours later, I feel somebody kick my legs. You have to get up because you're coming to be a prostitute. You coming to this country for make money for me. She took the passport and she said, this is your passport, now you mine, because now I'm controlling you. I wasn't even speak English, I wasn't even speak Japanese, only Spanish. I can't communicate with anyone. She say if I try to escape and don't pay her money back, she kill my daughter or kill my mom, my brother, my sister. I was in the streets. One Yakuza come approach me. The Yakuza is the Japanese mafia. So they basically control the prostitution in Japan. He took me to the room. He broke 2 ribs. He destroyed my face. So I was for like almost 4 weeks in the hospital. So my trafficker stayed with me next to my room in the hospital. When I'm asked for medication, she get up and talk to the doctors. When I want something, she get up, talk to them. But not because she wanna care about me, it's because she don't want me to speak up and talk them what happened to me. So after that, and I went back to the house, even with bruises, with still my broken ribs, I have to work, and I went back to the streets. To me, it's important the doctors understand the signs of victims of human trafficking. So it took me 18 months to escape. So when I went back to my country, I was very excited, happy, but also I was traumatized. I was paranoid. It was the worst situation, even worse than when the first time I accepted the first job. I went to the church, talked to God, and I say, why do you do this to me? Why? Why nobody care about me? And when I was crying there, this nun approached me and I explained to her what happened. So she told me, you are a victim of human trafficking. She provided me psychological help. So we did it for 3 years. So at the last therapy, she gave me a small box with all my notes. And she said, Marcela, I think you're ready. I think you're fine. And I'm gonna give you this present because I collect all your notes, because I think you can write a book, talk about your life, and help the others.